Hello, everyone. This is Ed Brendiger, and this is the Eddy Network Podcast. And this is a special edition where I'm reporting on what I've seen up in Western North Carolina around the Asheville area of the devastation that came from Hurricane Helene. Uh, I have several things I want to say. I'll try to say them in as succinct a way as possible. Uh, it's a very serious situation. I would, I think it's worth calling it a war zone um, because the destruction is at the level of a war. Um, I left on Wednesday. This is Friday. I'm recording this on Friday, October 11th, and I left on Wednesday morning around dawn and drove to Asheville, entered in through Biltmore Village, and I drove up to Biltmore Village, and they had cordoned off the inner village there. So I had to drive around and come through. And if you know that area, you know if you're coming down US 25, you come to a point where it splits, and there's a road that goes through the Hendersonville Road goes through the village, and then there's another road that goes over, it takes you over the bridge, over the rivers and the train tracks, and leading up to downtown Asheville. Well, that inner area around Biltmore Village was cordoned off, and they were doing still cleaning up. And this is almost 2 weeks later. Um, on the side of the left side of the highways, you're driving on with the village on the right as you're about to go through, and there's the gate. There's a lot of activity in that area, and they've already torn down buildings there. They were removing the rubble from buildings. Now, I don't know if those buildings fell because of the flood or they have actually been torn down because they're going to rebuild. A lot of activity at the gate area of Biltmore State. I get downtown, and um, it's uh, it's a somber scene. I didn't see a lot of damage, but I saw what I see is a kind of a crisis area. And so there are places. I was driving through places that I know, like I drove up Central Avenue where I used to have an office, and I was going to take a right to go over to Charlotte Street, and I couldn't go because there was a fire in a building, and there must have been 20 fire trucks in that area. So I had to turn around. It was constantly running up into barriers or obstacles to just the normal traffic. And then my real intent was to go for the trip up there was to go deliver to the Black Mountain Home for Children that is in Swannanoa, one of the hardest hit places in Western North Carolina. These 5-gallon portable water containers. And part of a little team of board members, we have ordered water containers and other objects for the home that typically wouldn't be in your basement or in your garage, that you would pick up and carry, as some kind of supply. But these are essential to what we want. And driving down US 70, and came to a point where they were cleaning up. They were removing debris from the road. So I had to turn around and drive back into town, get on the interstate, and go out to Black Mountain, and then come back in to where the home is. I got there, and it was a flurry of activity. Um, it was an amazing scene of people lined up to give supplies to the home. And it was just one after another, after another, after another, after another. And it was, I don't want to call it an air of festivity, but there was an air of optimism and there. And And so I, had had a bunch of young men, residents of the home, foster children. They unloaded my car, and then I went with one of the staff, and they took me over to West Campus. And in my Substack post called "The Long Game," you'll see some pictures of the West Campus, which is probably half of it destroyed, have to be replaced um, because of a landslide that had begun way up on the mountain and come down and just run right through the camp. It's a camp. It's a former 4-H camp owned by the state that the home leases from the state, and they have been improving it and been using it for various groups to come and use it as a retreat center. So it's called Shepherd of the Hills Retreat Center at Black Mountain Home for Children. Well, that whole program will be put on hold as repairs will have to be done. It was very challenging to walk up what I call the scar. The scar is what is left from the woods that used to be there. And if you ever walk through woods, there are trees, and there's a mat of dirt and of leaves and pine needles, and it could be feet deep, from hundreds of years of natural growth of trees, vegetation. All that was wiped away in this landslide that came down the mountain, and all you see there is just red clay, dirt, and sand, and rocks, and traversing it was quite difficult for me, given that I have some balance issues because of the tumor that I've had in my ear, which, by the way, I had gamma knife radiological surgery yesterday to take care of that. So that's it's been an interesting week. So the devastation is real. It's, I think, in many ways, I don't want to minimize it in any way, but where you have a lot of roads, and you have a lot of people, you have the opportunity to find the resources to take care of things. So it seems to me that Asheville will come through this okay. I mean, they have their challenges ahead of them. The water system, primary one. I want to talk a moment about support and the incredible support that has come to Western North Carolina, and I'm sure East Tennessee and Northeast Georgia and Southwest Virginia. I think all these places hold affection in the hearts of many people, and they want to help. They want to help these people who have been devastated. And so I think the most incredible are all these former military service personnel who have shown up to help, and in many cases they're bringing their own helicopters. They were helicopter pilots, or they were aircraft pilots during their service with the United States military, and they're bringing their helicopters in, and it's a beautiful thing. And I want you to know that your support is needed. It is welcomed. But I think you should also know that you need to be careful of who you give your support to. And I'm not saying that you should pick between organizations. I'm saying that you should have some kind of direct contact with someone who can speak on that organization's behalf, so that you know that the things that you want to give will get to the people that you want to help. And that requires not just cavalierly dropping off some stuff, but really taking some energy and some effort to research where you want your gifts to go. And to understand that if you give once, that's wonderful. But the needs of the people in these mountainous regions are not going to be over in the month. And they will still be there after your gifts of support have been used up. So when I say this is a long game, this is a very long game that is probably going to, for the people that live up there, for the next generation, will be the dominant focal point of their lives. How do we recover? How do we rebuild? You know, and if you watch a lot of the YouTube videos as I have, there are people that are saying, well, Chimney Rock's gone. It'll never be back. I think that's a false notion. I don't think there's any place up there that will not return. It will not be the same as it was, but the people who live there, they don't give up. These are strong people. They're not people who quit. They've never quit. If they were quitters, they would have moved out of those very hard places to live and moved to a suburb or a city where it's much easier to live, where there are all these support services and all these support industries, excuse me. So these people understand how hard living in the mountains truly is. And so I believe every one of those towns that has been wiped out will return. Maybe not in my lifetime, but at some point, the people that have had an attachment to those communities will return. And in so doing, a new town will form with an old name, which will carry a character of the people that once lived there. And people generations from now will talk about this moment in time when the people of Western North Carolina will rise up to continue the life that they've known. I'm absolutely convinced of that. And I welcome that. And I celebrate that and know that over the next decades of my life, I get to watch that because I live close to there, and I get to see, and I know people in those places, and I know that they're going to rebuild. I think the other thing is, I know many of you want to come see what has happened. Philanthropic tourism is not something that you should consider at this point in time. I'm not going back to go tour and see what's going on. I'm not going to do that. I will return to the home and take supplies and take things that I've ordered because the home needs that. I'm going for a specific purpose. I'm going to go to a specific place, and I'm going to do my work, and then I'm going to return home. They don't need people coming and looking, and as if this is some sort of a stage play or wildlife park where you drive through to look at the wild animals. This is not the time for that, because you're taking up space for one, but you're also using resources that would be available to the people that live there. So I would caution you on wanting to come and see what's happened. Look at the videos, and the videos that I've seen give a very good picture of the tragedy and the devastation that we've seen there. I want to talk about giving money. I want to say something about that. In many of these places, the internet's down, power's out, they don't have any water, and your check won't help. Your cash will. So if you are wanting to give some money, There are two things I want to suggest to you. One is that you give through an agency that you trust. There are many of them. You know, of course, the place my money goes is to the Black Mountain Home, but you can also give to Operation Blessing, Samaritan's Purse, Beloved Asheville. I think are ones that I've been told that people trust. Don't make a financial donation to them, and I'm certain that your money will be well used. There is types of help, financial help that is needed. There is the financial help that is needed for daily operations, buying food, buying paper products, and feminine products, and things that everybody needs on a daily basis: soap, shampoo, dishwashing lotion, stuff. But the real need long term will be rebuilding money, and we're talking millions of dollars. And in the current political climate, I don't think that money will come from governmental sources, because it doesn't seem that the government invests in things like infrastructure any longer. It invests in something else, whatever that may be. I mean, in many ways, the problems that these mountain communities face is the delay in actually addressing infrastructure needs. I know that at the Black Mountain Home, rebuilding the West Campus is a part of it, but it's also there are needs on the campus now that will require financial aid. So here's what I would suggest to you, is that you think and you pray about giving your money. And I wouldn't suggest any amount, because I may be too high, maybe too small. But I think you should be giving your money as well as the things that you can buy, which seem to be tangible. Find these organizations on the internet, and every one of them will have a place where you can donate and make a donation. And then when you make a donation, you are becoming a partner with them in their mission. And you will then be informed about what they're doing. And then you have the opportunity of building a relationship with a group of people. And I'm thinking in particular of how that has happened at the Black Mountain Home. You build a relationship with what I've done and what the people I know have done. They build a relationship with the home where it's something more than a place to give money. It's a place to invest their lives. And let me give you an example of this. I guess it was 10 or 12, maybe 15 years ago, one of the phenomenons that began to happen at the home was the experience of retirees showing up in their RVs and camping for a month, 2 months, or even 6 months, and offering their volunteer time to the home. And typically what was happening was, the men were doing heavy labor things, building things, working on the grounds, and the women were working with the kids. And I think that we've had somewhere in the last decade and a half, decade and a half, somewhere between 10 and 20,000 people who have come and done that. We have a lot of volunteers that come and serve there. And when you develop a direct relationship with the people that you're giving your money to, then you recognize you have a stake in the future of whether it's a children's home or it's the community. You have a stake in its future. And I wonder if you feel that same sense of connection and sense of having a stake in the future of your own community. See, I think this is one of the outcomes of a disaster like this. I saw this with my involvement with Hurricane Katrina relief and recovery. I saw people coming and giving up their homes. They would leave their homes wherever they lived. They would lock the door, and they'd get in their car, get in their truck, and they'd have their tools, and they'd drive down to the Mississippi Gulf Coast, planning to stay as long as necessary. And this is almost 20 years ago. And I know there's one woman that came down there from Central Illinois. Her first trip down was to catch a ride in a tractor trailer truck, a delivery truck that was coming down from Chicago. She got in the truck with her tool bag and a bag of clothes. And she went down there and she spent a couple of weeks and realized that she had a calling to that community. She went home, take care of some things at home, had some health issues that she had to get resolved. And then she came back to that community, moved in, started a nonprofit, and was rebuilding houses of people who could not afford to rebuild because they didn't have enough insurance in their house or whatever it may be. But that's what she was doing. And the last I heard, she's still there, almost 20 years later. So this moment is not something that happens to these people over there on the mountain. This moment is something that happens to us. It is an opportunity for us to discover something within us that we didn't know was there, which is that I can take initiative to make a difference in the world that I never thought I would be able to do so. And you can do that by giving your money. You can do it by collecting clothes or equipment or whatever, being knowledgeable about what is needed, find out what is needed, and then go collect that and bring it to the people or bring it to a location where it's being collected. But you taking action to do that will change your life. And that's the beauty of crisis. It changes their orientation to life, where we see that living a kind of a settled, certain life is sometimes a way of missing out on the true life that we should have. I want to show a little short video that my friend Jimmy Harmon, who's the president at Black Mountain Home, did while I was there. And then I want to say one more thing about money and donations. So here's Jimmy Harmon.
This is Jimmy Harmon from Black Mountain Home for Children. As you can see behind us is our Smith building. It's our administration building. But if you were able to walk through campus, you'd see absolute devastation here. We have just experienced Hurricane Helene and all the devastation. There are homes that have been swept away down the street from us on both sides of the road. But the children here are safe. It's amazing to see the hand of God just protect this place, just be around this place where the children have been. And we only have a few trees down on campus, but our retreat center is destroyed. And that's a huge source of revenue for our ministry, but it's been destroyed. So we really need people to consider helping us in many different ways to rebuild that place. Our South Campus survived. Our auto shop and the apprenticeship program, it got flooded, but hopefully we'll be able to put that back and get kids back in those classes soon enough. But we would just ask that you consider supporting the ministry. You can go to our Facebook and do that. But more importantly than anything, just join us in prayer that we can rebuild this place back better than it's ever been before. Thank you.
On Wednesday, when I was at the home, I sat with Jimmy and one of our other board members, Bruce Henderson, and we talked about the years of our involvement the years of seeing what had happened. Because 20 years ago, the home was small and it had been well loved and well cared for, but it was small. It was not the operation it is today. There may have been 10 or 15 kids living there now, and now there are almost 100 kids in the program of the home, located in two places, there in Squananoa and over in Transylvania County in Pisgah Forest. It's a small group of them. And then boys and girls that are foster children to foster parents who have connected to the home as an extension of the home's work. And we were talking about the past and what the future will be. And, and it's really clear that, these are just moments in time. This is just a hard moment in time, and it doesn't predict the future. And many of the people that you're going to see in videos are going to try to predict the future of what is going to happen. And the future is not set, and you need to understand that. So if you're going to give your money, make a donation which can be tracked so that you have a record of that. Or you bring cash to people who do not have access to their banks now, and you bring cash that they can use. And whatever amount that you bring will be appreciated and used. So that's what I think is the best option for people to act in response to a tragedy like this. I have not had a chance to do much research on what is happening with Hurricane Milton's situation, but I will be looking into that today. Whatever you give, I thank you for it. And whatever you give, I believe will be used well. If you're vigilant and you're smart in where you're giving your money. And just someone who shows up in a text message saying, I can do this, or send me money and I'll get it to these people. Do not act in that way. Do not follow through on that. Do your due diligence. Look at where the money is going and make sure that you are confident that your money will be used well. If you are confident in that way, I believe you will find that you will want to give more money than you think you can give right now. And that you will be willing to sacrifice by not doing things that you would ordinarily do so that you can give more money, so that you can see the effect of your giving, see the effect of your own initiative, and you will find that your life has been transformed from one who simply kind of goes along with the flow of things to one who is creating a flow of real impact through your life. If you have questions, if you want to talk about this, you can reach out to me, ed@edbrendiger.com. Reach out to me, and I'm glad to have a conversation with you. There's a lot that I think we can do. I think let me say, this is the last thing I want to say. I haven't addressed the relationship of groups that have come to Western North Carolina, whether they're volunteer groups or military groups or whatever it is, government. I haven't addressed how they relate to one another because I don't know how they relate to one another. I see what the reports are. I don't know what to believe there. They all may be true. They all may not be true. Some may be true. Some may not be true. What I do know is that where you build relationships with people that you are giving your time, your money, and your stuff to, where you build a relationship with them, you will have a much greater sense that you're contributing and your contribution really matters. That's really a key. And how you create those relationships, that is a challenge, but you can do it if you are determined to do that. And it may be that your gift to some group in Burnsville or Bryson City or Spruce Pine or somewhere in Georgia or East Tennessee, Irwin, Tennessee, or Newport, Tennessee, somewhere that your gift, this one gift that you're making, inspires within you to say, I wonder what my community's needs are. I wonder how I can make a difference right here where I live. And if you build those relationships right where you live, then when some kind of catastrophe like this comes along, you are prepared, or you're better prepared to step together into action to take care of the people who truly need you. So there's a tremendous loss of property and life and that sort of thing. But the opportunities for really good things to come from this are very apparent to me. And the only thing that keeps that from happening is your own resistance or reluctance to be involved. So this is the Eddy Network podcast for this day. Should have been yesterday, but it's today. And we'll be back on a normal schedule next week. I thank you for watching. I thank you for listening. I thank you for your comments and your support. And I look forward to seeing you next time here on the podcast. Bye-bye.